Hey, what's up, everybody? We're with Tam Pham today, and he is the community manager for Mixergy, and he's also a two-time author. And he did community building for The Hustle and the Lean Startup Company. Now, Tam Pham has taken his precious time. I know he's busy. He's building relationships, personal branding, and just crushing it constantly. But here he is with us today. Thank you for joining us. So one of the things I want to ask, right off the bat is tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into entrepreneurship, how you began building these relationships in Silicon Valley, and now you're here, and it's almost like everybody knows who you are. You're like that lovable guy that everybody's like, Tam Pham, he's just awesome. So tell us how that came to be. Give
Yeah,
us the
definitely.
deeds.
Well, first, thanks for having me. I'm a big fan of you and your work, and we met through the Hustle Ambassador Program, which is freaking awesome. And we can dive more into that later. But so what's up, guys? My name's Tam. My story was a bit um, like a classic like college dropout story who tried to start their own business. It failed, and then I was like, man, I don't know what I'm doing. So I got to work for people who I really admire and I really respect. So I started working for the Lean Startup Company, the Hustle, and now at Mixergy to just learn from the entrepreneurs who have done it before, and so I can use those skills outside and build my own company one day, or just help other people build their companies. So that's like the short version. We can definitely dive deeper into the story, but I'm just glad to be here and happy to just provide value.
Awesome. So I know you've done a lot regarding like your history with writing a couple books and with community building, but I know everybody wants to know what are you working on right now? Go for it.
So right now, I'm currently working as a community manager for Mixergy. Mixergy is kind of like lynda.com, but just for entrepreneurs. And I'm on my second project I'm working on is with 3 billion under 30, a new book launched by my friend Jared Kleinert. I'm helping him do the marketing for the whole book launch. So I also got to work with the guy who ran all the tech and marketing stuff for Neil Strauss on his recent book, The Truth. So I'm working with just great entrepreneurs, and I'm learning from them, and and in turn they're learning from me. So it's a win-win, and I'm just really excited.
So one of the things I'm interested in is you're working on these projects, and you have a lot of choices because granted, when good things start happening to you, it's like all these opportunities start flooding in, but you can only choose like two or three because you only have so much time.
Yep.
So what goes through your head when you're like, okay, I'm going to work on this project, whatever that may be?
Yeah.
What decisions are you making? Go for it.
Um, Internally or intrinsically, it has to be challenging. So if it's just easy work that I can just kind of just like like power through it and just put in the time and go grind it out. Like that's cool, but not as exciting. So if it's challenging, if it's new, if it's fresh, then that's something I definitely want to dive into. Also, I look up to a lot of the people I work up, um, the role models that I want to work with. So, for example, at the Hustle, I wanted to work with Sam Parr, who's also a speaker at one of your conferences, because he was great at copywriting. I saw him as a great entrepreneur. Now I'm working at Mixergy. I wanted to work with Andrew Warner, who has interviewed thousands of entrepreneurs over the last like 8 years, learning why they failed and the lessons they can grow from it. So definitely the people, definitely the work that makes me challenge, and probably the culture. I want a culture where it's very helpful to, or it's very normal to ask for help, to give help. A culture that embodies good mentorship, that has strong values, and a great community.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think so much of it is about relationships and building community. It's incredibly important, and many people, take it for granted sometimes. They don't see what's right in front of them. And I know Sam Parr. I started following him about was it like 2 years ago when I was in San Diego, and that was one of the people that I really want to meet, and that's one of the reasons why I moved out to Silicon Valley here. And
Wow.
it's funny how like it's everything comes full circle. If you want it, you can go and get it. And just like you,
Oh,
you're talking about like, hey, this is what I wanted, and this is what I got. Boom.
oh,
Um,
heck yeah. What were you doing in San Diego? Just curious.
Oh, in San Diego. So I'm originally from San Diego. But I had actually moved to Mountain View soon after college to
Mhm.
work for a startup, but the startup ended up failing. So I went back to San Diego and I worked as a copywriter for a year.
Wow.
And then I jumped into startup life, which was working for a Facebook marketing software company. And about like 4 years ago, I actually founded a company that failed. So that was actually a hard period because I was going through all these like startup failures. Then I ended up working as a copywriter, and I was like, it's like, what am I really doing with my life? And I was just trying to save up money. And when I made that jump to startup life, back into it, it was very difficult because I was like, I just finished saving up enough money to take one more risk, and I could choose between this corporate world. I was like, here's like 40K or 50K salary, like, just take it and be very risk averse. Or you can do something that's really sounds stupid and work for like very little pay and just see what happens because you believe in the company, you believe in the founders. And I was like, man, this hasn't worked out at all, but I would hate myself in like 30 years if I didn't keep on pushing. And then that ended up working out really well. The company was the first to live stream on Facebook, actually. So this was, and a couple other like really cool features that people will hopefully find out soon about. The adoption rate is so slow. So it's like, so that was one of the problems. That was cool though.
The classic dilemma, millennial life crisis dilemma.
Seriously, it's so worth it though. And I'm sure like you've gone through the same thing where, you could work for these young companies, you could work for these inspiring founders, or you could take something that's very risk averse and you could sit in a cubicle. But at the end of the day, it's like, where are you going to build all those great relationships? Like, who do you want to become? Who do you want to meet? Yeah.
It's so tempting. Like when I visit my friends at Facebook or Google, like it's just so tempting to see, wow, you have all the food you have here, and you can like get your laundry done and get a massage and whatever. And I was like, man, what if I just quit everything I'm doing and just like live this comfortable lifestyle? But then those same friends that work there are leaving because it's like it gets cushy, and they want more challenge. So it's always a give and take, for sure.
Sure, I've heard I forgot what entrepreneur it was, but he said that they basically do all these great things for you, so you don't like teach yourself more information, because the more you learn, the more like you realize what you're capable of, like your potential, and the chances of you leaving become higher. So they try to put all these good things in front of you, so you don't like actually spend time learning. Very funny.
It's pretty cool because they also have classes where you can learn stuff, like not just tech related, but more like cooking classes or yoga or sport or whatever you want to learn. They probably have it done for you, or they probably set it up for you. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's sort of interesting. It's like when it is set up for you and it makes it really easy, it's far different than you going out and like searching for it. When things are provided to you, it's like education in school. It's like, here's a presentation for you to learn X. You just don't value it as much as if you were like, I'm going to go out and execute. I think there might be like a little bit of a different mentality there. So one of the things I'm really interested in is you've come it's just a crazy journey that you've been on, going through these startups, learning from all these different mentors. And can you talk about maybe 2 or 3 remarkable people that have really stepped in and have helped you? Because anybody that's gone anywhere, especially with some success, has had some help along the way. It's not just like this solo journey. Sometimes it is, but that's very, very rare to find. So yeah, tell me about who those people are.
Well, one unlikely answer that most people don't know about is our mutual friend, Brandon Lee. He's been a good friend and mentor to me for maybe the last year or 2 years or so. And he's a core top writer. He flips houses, and he's very passionate about business and social impact. And on the surface, that doesn't sound like a guy you would want as a mentor. Like you would want someone who's like successfully exited a startup or raised X amount of millions of dollars or whatever. And that's what you would picture yourself as a ideal startup mentor. But he actually went the opposite way. He challenged me to find out like what's my why, like why do I do what I want to do. He challenged me to like do work that I'm passionate about. He challenged me to think on a higher level about certain issues that I already assumed that was true. So just someone to just push your buttons and keep challenging you to think and shatter your frameworks of what you already believe is true. So Brandon Lee is definitely one of them. Another one that I really admire as well is Sam Parr, which we just mentioned earlier. It's kind of crazy because I volunteered at HustleCon, the conference him and his team threw, like 6 months prior to when I got the job. And when I was job seeking afterwards, I asked him for advice. I said, "Hey Sam, I'm looking to join a rocket ship company. Like, what company should I join?" And he's like, "Come join us." And I was like, "Cool." So literally the very next week, I signed the offer, and I sleep on his couch for the next 3 months. So I'm literally
Oh wow.
like I'm literally spending 24 hours with this guy, right? And I can learn like all these little things that you don't really learn like just in an office setting, like how to talk to people, how to negotiate, how to he basically pushed me to do these things that I normally didn't do or I wasn't really comfortable with for me to learn. And we didn't agree on everything, and we definitely had our back and forths, but overall, like he was very generous of offering that, like kind of like an apprenticeship essentially, and taught me a lot as well. So there's so many more people that I can definitely mention, but I'll just stick to those two for now.
Yeah, I think, Sam Parr and Brandon Lee are just incredible people, having talked to them both. Like, yeah, Brandon is just like on point, and he talks a lot about, especially when we were talking last about momentum and finding other people with momentum and how important that is. So he says, don't think about where this person is now. Think about where they're going to be in like 10 years. This is someone who you want to still be with in like 10 years from now. And like, even if it's this young kid who's just like out of college or, has just put their first foot in the startup world, are they on a great trajectory? And that's what really matters. It's not like whether they're just experienced a failure, but whether they're like hyped about life. They're like, I'm going to make it no matter what it takes. Like, you should probably keep in contact with them. Granted, they may not provide you value, but hey, if they're going in that direction, like, yeah, then, keep them in your circle.
It's a long
Um,
term game, man.
yeah, it's a long-term game, and so much of it is about relationships. And then Sam Parr, I would say like one of the big things I learned from him was how valuable content is. And it sounds crazy because, I've worked as a copywriter, and then I'm like, okay, I knew content was valuable, but then he was like, hey, we actually just produce really great content, and that's why everything works out. And to me, he's like, there's no like fancy tricks. And we tried a lot of those fancy tricks, and they didn't work out. At the end of
Yeah.
the day, it was content.
Oh
And that's
yeah.
sort of like, and everybody's looking for those quick wins, especially, in the industry that I'm involved in. It's
Of
like
course.
growth marketing. Like, everybody's like, how can I get an email list of like 10,000 people today? And I'm like, that's not happening. Like, good luck with that.
Definitely a good product. Like I forgot who said it, but um I don't think it was Ryan Holiday, and he mentioned like the best marketing for a book is just to write a really damn good book.
It makes sense. It reminds me of like Harry Potter. So I think it was, so what's her name again? I'm trying to remember the name. Yeah, so J.K. Rowling, she had submitted her book to his publisher, and the publisher was like, "Oh, I don't have time to read it." So he gave it to his daughter and said, "Hey, you read it, you check it out." And his daughter was like, "I love this book. This is like my favorite book." And he's like, "Maybe there's something here, you know?"
Yeah.
It's funny, and that's how it all started. And I was like, "Wow, that's pretty cool," This,
Yeah.
um, so you're in the startup scene, you're working with a lot of entrepreneurs and you're helping entrepreneurs. Now, that passion to help entrepreneurs doesn't come from anywhere. So can you tell me like, what drives you to help other entrepreneurs and just, provide time to give them advice, to give them suggestions, or just to be a leader in general, show people the way?
Well, my very selfish answer is that it makes me feel good. It makes me happy when I help other people. And that sounds kind of weird. It's a cop out answer, but I genuinely like find joy when I help other people. And from a more like strategical and business standpoint, if you read the book Give and Take by Adam Grant, the framework of the book is the more you give and provide value to others, the more opportunities will come back to you. So I know that when I help people, with one email here or one coffee meeting here, it's not going to do anything in the next like year or maybe even 5 years. But I know over the long run, that effect will help them in whatever their lives are doing. And they might even use that and say, okay, I'm going to help other people because, this guy helped me once in return. So it's like it's just the thought of when I help other people, the world by itself will be a much better place. And that sounds like a startup like cliche, but I really believe in just helping others, and I find joy in doing that.
Yeah, I think it's so key in a sense where, I don't know, do you read James Altucher
Yeah,
by any chance?
yeah,
So
yeah.
I love that guy, and he talks about like over delivering in value all the time and how important that is. And when people least expect it, and all of a sudden you're like, here you go, here's everything. And people are just like, wow, like there are people who give a lot of value without like expecting anything in return. And it creates a great brand around you. It's like, in a sense where people know that it comes from a very genuine place. And I think that's one of the most important things when you over deliver. So if you just give them exactly what they want, they'll never know if it's really like genuine if you're going to ask for something later. But when you over deliver, they're like, oh, wow, like this person, is actually like here to do something good for the world.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes from him is he says to over promise and over deliver. So usually people say you under promise and then over deliver because you're like lowering the bar and then like going above and beyond. So that's like the classic. But he's like, over promise, tell them how much value you're gonna give them, and then over deliver on that because that's so much harder to do, and most people don't do that. So it gives you extra pressure to do an even more spectacular job, which is much more difficult. But that has worked for him, and I resonate with that a lot.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. It's hard for people to get in that mindset, but once you do, it's very powerful. So I know like people are. So I know people are here to listen to like some of your community building tactics and strategies, because you have you have this huge background in just building relationships, personal branding, and bringing people together. So what are some of your best strategies and like tactics to making like conferences such as like HustleCon happen, or like bringing a better community around like Mixergy, like those type of things?
So we can go a couple of different tangents with this. With HustleCon, what we did was we just had a great like not only we had a great like product, like the conference and the speakers and all the value we gave there, but we just had a great why. Like most startup conferences, like they all suck. They have these cliche taglines and same lingo at literally every single conference. Like I wrote this blog post about the 45 conferences you should attend in 2016, and I was going through all these different event pages. They all sounded the exact same. And for those who are not familiar with the hustle, we're just like super casual, super informal, super laid back, but in a cool, like chill vibe that's like kind of like you're a smart, intelligent friend, like telling you like what's up, and just giving you no bullshit. And so when people read that, it's just so different. And you're a copywriter, so you definitely resonate with that. And so we just had a great product. And when people believe in this why and this mission, things just come in naturally. That's kind of basically the product, because you don't. It's easier to, bring people together who already believe in something than to not have like no mission statement and then convince people to like, hey, like my product is still pretty cool, I guess, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very important to like, have that voice and like be able to stand out from people. And one of the things I teach over at like my academy, because I teach them a lot about copywriting. And some of them will be sort of funny with their copy. And I'm like, that's awesome. It's so hard for people to be funny. Most people would come in, like if you're thinking of content managers and it's your first day, like working under them, maybe it's like one of our students, they'll be like, you can't be funny. You can't do any of that stuff. And I'm like, no, that's what makes you memorable. That's what helps you stand out. Like, don't let anybody tell you that you can't do that, because at the end of the day, that's going to win. And it gives them this whole perception, like it's okay to be them, And I think that's really cool.
That's actually one skill I'm trying to improve on right now. I'm learning how to write a comedy.
Oh yeah, I saw it was like a video that was oh no, it was a Facebook post you put up. That's what it was. Yeah, so how's that going? I know you did like a show recently. Was it pretty recently?
So for those to give context, I was very interested into stand-up comedy, but I never had the balls to do it until very recently. So I took a course every single week in SF about how to write stand-up. And I started reading a bunch of books about writing stand-up comedy and what things are funny, why are they funny, who resonates with what, etc. The structure and etc. And I'm getting better at it. I'm not perfect, and I'm definitely not good yet, but I'm definitely getting better in just writing comedy. And I perform probably like once a week in the city. So, but I'm not telling anyone like where I'm performing or like what time, because I don't want any of my friends to know about it yet until like I'm actually good, and then they can come by and say, oh, That's pretty cool.
So that's so funny. And I think that's really interesting, like how you went about solving this problem, because the problem was that you weren't confident in like your skills to perform comedy, and you're like, okay, where do I start? I learned from the people who are already good at it. So I start with reading the material, and then I start with practicing, and then I start to feel like this confidence in me because they did it and they were successful, and I'm using the same tips.
Oh
Then
yeah,
why can't I do it?
yeah. It's all
So
about surrounding yourself with people like you want to be like. So basically, surround yourself with comedians in my part, and also just learn from people who've done it before for 30 years, 20 years. And you can learn anything on anywhere through a book, through a YouTube video, through this Blue Jeans broadcast, like anything. So that's really cool.
yeah, I think video is like huge, especially like anything in person, because the touch points are so much higher. And writing is very difficult, but you can still do it with writing. But honestly, like, I mean, I'm sure you would agree with this, is that most writing on the internet is crap. So it's almost like really easy to stand out if you're a great writer. It's sort of funny.
Yeah.
And you just like focus on your voice. And I think that was what's so cool about the hustle. Can you talk a little bit about like the hustle's voice? I know people are really interested in that.
Oh yeah. So we have this like a content guide where they basically drill all the writers on how the hustle writes, and I can't like disclose like what's in it and like how to find it, but it was very specific on like who we are, who we're reaching, and how what our tone is. And so if we could all match that same tone, and add our own unique style to it, but still keeping that same tone to that same audience, then they just say go for it. And they were very very hard on me. Like I had a hard time adjusting to that style because I wasn't a very good writer. I thought I was until I went there, and every single article that I tried to write, John Havel and Sam Parr, the founders of the company, just tore it apart. Like they just marked up every single sentence saying like this sucks. This is not structured right. This point is weak. This is a bad joke. Stop putting this part in the front of the sentence. Like he just tore it apart. And it was very, very hard because at one point I was like, man, I don't think I want to do writing anymore because it's so difficult. And so they just told me just keep going, like you're improving, you're learning super fast, and just keep going at it. So I love just standing out, being different, and their persistence to make me better just made me a better writer, and I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, constant feedback is so important. I think people forget how valuable that is. Like when I was working as a copywriter, I rarely ever got feedback. It's funny that it sounds that way, but yeah, people like, so I'm working in this company, and they basically told me, they're like, we want this many articles, and then just write. And that's what I did for a period of time. And then what ends up happening is like after about 50 pieces, like it's a horrible story. So like just prepare everybody. After 50 pieces, my boss comes over and says, hey, like, can you send me like the pieces that you've been writing? I said, oh, like I've been pinging you when I've been finishing them. And cause I actually thought she was looking over them, that they're just good. And so she reads through like a couple, and then she basically tells me, she's like, this is crap. And she throws all of them away. Like, and this was probably like over a month's worth of work. And I was like, wow, that just happened. And she gave me some good feedback, but then what I realized, I was like, okay, that's great feedback, but I could have used that on day 2 or day 1.
A month ago, yeah.
And so when I realized that, I was like, I need to find people who are going to give me feedback faster. And just like you and Sam Parr, he's giving you feedback like constantly. And I was like, man, I need like someone like that in my life to do that for me. So funny how that works. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you're not getting feedback, for anybody who's listening, like find someone who can give you feedback as soon as possible. That's like crucial in like your development. It'll accelerate it so much faster. Don't go a month like writing tons of shitty blog posts like I did.
Make sure the feedback is like very blunt and honest. Some people like beat around the bush and say, hey, I don't want to hurt your feelings. Like we're friends and I want to do business in the future. But just find someone who just like does not give a crap about what you think and just rip their stuff apart. And honestly, you can even like pay to have that. Like that's like a business coach or a writing coach. I'm a big fan of like paying for like expertise. And most people are like, oh man, I would never pay for a fitness trainer. I can just get all the information online. Or I would never pay for a business coach. It's kind of stupid. But in reality, like they will help you like exponentially let you reach your results and keep you accountable for it. And I'm a big fan of like paying for value.
Yeah, I think that's huge. Many people don't realize how important it is to have like an expert just go through like just their work like one time, just so they understand the value, and then
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, I get it now."
Yeah.
It's funny.
Even just
I know there's a lot.
1 to 3 months or something. It doesn't have to be like every day, but at least someone who's like giving you honest feedback, like no bullshit. Like you're paying them, so they have to like help you out.
Yeah, true. And again, so important. I think like feedback is probably, if I had to look at like the best business skills out there, like accepting feedback and getting it quickly is probably number one in my book.
Yeah.
Because everything relies on that.
Yeah.
Now, I know you have a lot of experience with entrepreneurship. I want to get some understanding from you of like what you see people when they're like starting companies, what they tend to like skip over, or what works really well. You know, is it focusing on community first? Is it focusing on content first? Go for it.
Yeah, well, I'm not like a super successful entrepreneur who's like raised millions and successfully exited, but I've been working in startups for a while, and I've seen many people, like I've seen my friends like launch like their dumb app or their dumb website, and it's like not functional or just like not solving the problem, and they say like, Tam, I did all this work for like this many months. Why aren't people like, why isn't my traffic blowing up? And there's so many reasons why. Like the basic reason is they're solving a problem that's not even there. They're usually just providing a solution to like, oh, here's another messaging app for companies. And it's like, okay, this Slack. It's like, no, but mine's different. It's like, no, it's not really. But no one's gonna like switch over for that one feature that they barely use, you know. So, I guess really focusing on a problem that they truly need to solve, that people are like dying to just pay money for it. And don't even worry about content or marketing or whatever. It's just focusing on the problem, focusing on who your customers are, and know them really deeply. Like have this customer avatar. You hang up like at the hustle. We had like photos of our readers, and like what school they went to, how much money they made, what jobs they worked at, how old they were, just very deeply. So whenever we're writing, we look up and we see, oh, okay, Emily's like this years old and she's working here. Would she like this content? So really drilling down to see who your customer audience is. And just don't worry about the shiny objects. Like people focus on like SEO and then these like email lists and then social media. Like there's so many different things to worry about. Just focus on what, like I'm a big fan of the 80-20 rule, where you focus on the 20% that brings you 80% of the results. So focus on what is the main driver behind your marketing efforts or whatever goal you're trying to hit, and just focus solely on that until it plateaus. And once that plateaus, then you look for another channel of marketing or whatever goal you're trying to hit to do the 80-20 rule on again. So finding a problem, really getting knowing your target users, and what did I just say?
So getting to understand your target, your customer avatar, and like putting them in front of you, so you can like analyze them and like see them every day.
Yeah.
I think it's so funny like talking to so many entrepreneurs how few of them like actually understand who their customer is, and that's like step one. It's like find out who your customer is, find out like your fit, and go from there. I think that's really funny, and having that down like and constant reminder of it so you're not forgetting is huge.
Yeah.
Like I think go for it.
Go ahead.
So I think it's a little bit easier for me because I hang around like growth marketers all day, so like I know who it is, And I think that's also one of the cool things of selling to people or like building relationships with people, because I think at the end of the day, like where relationships do sell is actually living like as a customer. So that makes it far easier to start a business if you ever need to. I see many people who don't actually embrace like who their customer is. It's like this, maybe the guy's like, I don't want to say like maybe like 60 years old and he's trying to market to people who are like 18. It's just very difficult. The reason is he just can't step in their shoes. Some of them can. You have like Gary Vaynerchuk, who admittedly actually says he watches girls on their phone to see what they're doing, like teenage girls. And I'm like, well, that makes sense. Like, that's why you're good at what you do.
That's intense.
Sort of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, he's cool. And yeah, it also helps to just be a customer of your own product.
true. One of the things I know that you have a lot of education on, and you've been working with like diligently, is obviously like producing like great content. And there comes this point where you have to figure out like how much time do I spend like distributing this content, and how much time do I spend like creating it? It's very difficult to like find that balance.
Yeah.
So, what goes through your thought process when you're trying to find that balance of creating content and distributing it?
Yeah, so a lot of people disagree. Well, this has been a debate for a while. Like, for example, I think it was not Derek Sivers, Derek Halpern, founder of socialtriggers.com, and he would say you should spend 20% creating and 80% distributing. And some people are like, whoa, that's like so much like distribution, that's so much like push, push, push. We should focus on making something like really like high quality instead of trying to push uh people, the same article like every single week. But he makes a good point by
Mhm.
saying like, most people like most stuff you post online, like your whole audience isn't gonna reach it. It has to take like at least two, three, four times to like finally to get the article into their hands. Like, open rates are like what 40% at best, and click rate is like even
Mhm.
lower. So when you have like a valuable article, a valuable piece of content you want to you publish, it has to get to the audience. And so he's a big fan of like the 80-20 rule, 80 being
Mhm.
distribution. I'm more like mellow, like 50-50. Like I like to write stuff. I write for the last year alone. I wrote maybe 100 articles and 2 books. And
Oh wow.
it's a lot of writing. And I spent a lot of time distributing as well. Maybe not as much time as I would have liked, but I'm happy with the results they both got. And I would that's another creator's problem is like we don't want to whenever we write, we just want people to just like it. It takes a lot of a mindset shift for most writers or most creators to like really focus on distribution and marketing, marketing, marketing. Because most people, that's not like their trade. That's not like their expertise. They just want to write.
Mhm.
And I just want to write too. I don't want to like push my stuff out. But you got to do what you got to do. You got to learn the skills, and you got to, make partnerships in order to get your work out there. And I thought someone said, someone said how it's selfish of you to not distribute it, because if you know that article or this like your group or whatever will help people, it's selfish of you not to share it with them.
Mhm.
So I took that to heart, and I've been like promoting my stuff, but not like lightly, but still passive aggressively. Like, check out my shit. It will literally help you like network or literally land your dream internship or whatever it is.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's very important to concentrate on distribution. At the same time, I feel like there are like these like unicorns out there, and one person that I know as well is Isaac Morehouse.
Yeah.
Um, so he just like creates content like crazy. I don't know if he concentrates that much on like distribution, but he pumps out like 10 times more content than anyone else I know, and just
Yeah.
through that is like his distribution.
Yeah. He
Uh,
put so much content. I was like, I'm not sure how many people listening, or maybe that's a good strategy for the long run. I'm not sure. Like Gary Vaynerchuk did a blog like every single day, which is awesome too. Casey Neistat did a blog every single day, but I wonder how much time they spend distributing, and I'm curious to hear their thoughts too.
yeah, it's like what do and they build a lot of thought leadership too. So it's funny. It's like almost like who do you take advice from? It's very difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think distribution is important and understanding like especially getting on platforms early, trying out like new features early to see if those can help with distribution, like get a leg up before everyone starts coming in, like this wave of people start adopting.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's right there and doesn't take too much time to learn, like then go for it. So
Mhm.
one of the things that I want to talk to you about is like you've written 2 books. Now I want to give people an understanding of like why you wrote those books and a little bit about your background and to like how that plays into it. Go for it,
Definitely.
man.
Well, I'll start with the first one. The first one was called How to Network. And I was very frustrated about networking because I've always thought it was like when you had to shove business cards down people's faces and talk about golf and stuff like that. But I realized like that's not actually how networking is. Networking is actually just making friends. And it makes sense because like if your friends appreciate you, support you, and want the best for you,
Mhm.
isn't that the same thing you want out of your business connections? So I was thinking, man, why is there no like easy to read book for like an average young adult to read and learn about networking? So I had to fill that void, and my book's a little bit different from like the most networking books out there because it's much more casual. It's funny. I have like funny pictures in there, and it's just written super informally, which surprises people at first. Some people hate the book because they're like, "Wow, this is like not book worthy. It's like a blog post." But some people love it, and they're like, "Man, this I wish everyone wrote like this." So it's a give and take. But I wrote that book because I was very frustrated with networking, and once I finally, was very successful in building my own network and I could land jobs. I could, find partnerships or opportunities just came my way. Like I had to, it'd be selfish of me not to share that knowledge. And the same thing with my second book, How to Land Your Dream Internship. I started interning at all these really cool startups and big corporate jobs and accelerators, and people kept asking me like, Tam, like, how did you intern for all these companies? So I basically just laid out like a step-by-step system on exactly how to do it, and I got really great responses from students, teachers, and
That's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
people, human beings. That's what
I think it's definitely a huge pain point. Like you see, especially like in the Bay Area where people are trying to network a lot. And when you have so many people trying to do something, you see all the actions that they take that are wrong because more obvious to you.
Yeah.
So, and one of the things I see, which is pretty big, is going to conferences, but like not going without like purpose. So you're going there to like listen to speakers. Like I'll give you an example. It's so funny. So I was at the Startup Grind event, and everybody was listening to Jason Lemkin, who's like this SaaS entrepreneur and VC, and people love this guy. But the issue was he was talking about how to scale from 1 million in revenue to 10 million in revenue, and nobody there was even making 1 million in revenue for their company. So they're all listening to this guy. And I'm like, this advice is totally like does not apply to my life at all until like I'm there, and everybody else as well. And I was like, man, this is like the wrong place to be. So funny.
Yeah.
Oh man. So dive into your other book. So I know that you had basically some not struggles with college, but like early realizations that sort of pushed you to write this material as well. Can you dive into that?
Yeah, so with college, like I was paying like so much, like thousands of dollars to learn things that wasn't really relevant to my life at that time or towards my goals. So I was like, man, like what's the best way for me to learn to reach my goals? And the best way was through experience, and that was through internships. When you're like 18 and not really knowing what to do with your life, you just want to just intern for companies and have that experience under your belt. So I started interning for all these cool companies. I landed maybe about 6 internships total at the very end before turning 21. And everyone kept asking me like, Tam, how did you land all these internships? Like how'd you build your resume? How, what was your job interview like? And all this other stuff. So I wrote that because my frustration with how college was, how class was, and how important I believe internships or just getting real world experience was. It'd be selfish of me not to write that book. So ironically, speaking of coming with an agenda, like I was speaking at a conference. I was speaking at my school, San Jose State, the school I dropped out from yesterday, and I was in the back of the room. I was sitting next to this Asian kid, and he was just playing this game called Agario. It's like some desktop game, and there's a speaker up there before me, and I was like, "Hey man, like, why don't you listen to the speaker? Like, if you like, why'd you even come to this event if you're just gonna play games?" And then he didn't know I was a speaker, so he's like, "Man, it doesn't matter. I can do whatever I want. Like, this speaker like boring, it's whatever." So like 10 minutes later, it's my turn to speak, and I come up and I look straight at him. He's like, "Oh shit!" Turn on his laptop, and then he's like listening.
That's so funny.
Like people like don't. I don't like it when people treat you differently because of your status or your reputation, and so that's a clear example of like coming in with agenda. And like if this person's not important to you, then you just kind of brush it off.
Yeah, that's very true. It's interesting how that happens.
Yeah.
Like they say you can learn something from everyone. And a lot of it's just asking the right questions in return. So I think that's really important. And getting down to like their why. I think I was listening to this guy named TK Coleman. You know TK Coleman?
Yeah.
Ring a bell? Yeah. So I was on this phone call with him, well, this like sort of Skype call with him the other day, and he was talking about how he mentors people and how he just like asks why like constantly just to get them down to the root. And so they realize like, what they're trying to do
Yeah.
and helps you understand them because if you don't understand them, then it's hard to like learn from them in the first place. It's
Yeah,
cool.
he's really cool. But yeah, he's really cool. I read his chap. So Isaac had a book out called "Why Haven't You Read This Book Yet?" And TK
Mhm.
Coleman was talking about how I think it was got into American Idol and didn't like make it or something, but he still did it anyways. So he's a cool guy.
That's so funny. So I know we're coming up on, we've been on this live stream for quite some time. I want to see if you have any like final words of wisdom for the crowd here that's gonna be listening to this. Go for it, man. Like any value that like these entrepreneurs and like marketers can take away.
Well, I'm just a big fan of. It's a very cliche, but I'm a big fan, and I hold true to this quote that Jim Rohn says, "Where you're the average of the five people you spend the most time with." So I purposely like cut out people from my life, and surround myself with those who I want to be like or learn from, just for the reason that I want to have that better mindset, have a better life in general, and just be a better human being in business, as a big brother, as just a person. So surrounding yourself with the right minds of intelligent, caring, and kind souls. So there you go. I'll end it there.
Yeah, awesome, dude. There we go. Tam Pham for everyone. Two-time author, community builder at Mixergy, just crushing it today. Thank you everyone for hopping on, and I can't wait to see you guys on the next live stream. Much love, live it, love it, and keep the hustle.